Welcome back to Investing Talk podcast. Today we're digging into BitDigital. A lot of you have been asking about them, especially, with everything going on in crypto mining. Our goal here is to really unpack their upcoming earnings report. We want to pull out the key details, the insights you need to get a handle on what's happening with this stock. And hey, before we jump into the numbers, if you find this kind of analysis helpful, please do subscribe, like us, maybe leave a comment. It genuinely helps us keep these conversations going. And if you're feeling generous, you could even consider buying us a coffee. Also, definitely let us know in the comments if there's another company you want us to look into next time. Okay, so BitDigital, let's get straight to it. The upcoming report, when is it, and what are the initial market vibes?
Right. So the Q2 2025 report for BitDigital, that's landing on Monday, August 18th, after the market closes. And there's a conference call, too, that's set for Friday, August 15th, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time.
Got it. August 18th, post-close. Definitely one for the calendar if you're in the crypto space.
Yeah, for sure. And what's interesting is the analyst consensus. For revenue, they're clustered around roughly $25.8 million. Wall Street seems pretty tight on this one, like $25.7 million to $26.5 million is the range.
Pretty narrow range.
Very narrow. And for earnings per share, the consensus is actually negative 0.03 cents per share for Q2. It's also worth noting there's no published whisper number.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, sometimes that hints at a hidden bullish or bearish lean. Its absence here suggests analysts are pretty well balanced around these estimates. Seems like expectations are quite neutral.
Okay, so no strong undercurrent pushing expectations one way or the other. That means the actual results and what management says. That's really going to drive the reaction, isn't it?
Exactly.
But did BitDigital themselves give any hints? Like back in Q1, did they guide or suggest anything about Q2?
Well, they didn't give explicit Q2 revenue or earnings guidance. That's not super unusual for them. But they definitely highlighted the expected headwinds for Bitcoin mining revenue, because of the halving in 2024.
Right, the halving impact.
Yeah. But crucially, they also stressed their plans for growth in cloud and colocation services to sort of offset that. So that really sets up the main question for this report. How much did that diversification actually help this quarter? Did it buffer the mining hit?
That makes total sense. It's kind of a test of their pivot strategy.
It really is.
So we know where they're trying to go, but how have they done historically? Like the last 4 quarters, any big surprises or misses we should know about?
Yeah, looking back, there's a bit of a pattern. In Q1 2025, their EPS was negative 5 cents, which actually matched consensus.
Okay, so matched on earnings.
Right. But revenue, $25.1 million, that came
Okay.
below the consensus of $26.38 million. A miss there. Q4 2024, similar story. Slight EPS miss, revenue kind of in line or maybe slightly below. In Q3 and Q2 of 2024 also showed modest EPS misses and revenues pretty close to what was expected.
There's a trend of slight underperformance, especially on the revenue side lately.
Exactly. Minor misses seem to be the recent history.
Okay, so given those minor misses, how does the stock usually react after the report comes out? Crypto stocks can be wild, but is there a pattern for BitDigital?
Yeah, this is super important for anyone trading it. Post-earnings, BitDigital stock gets really volatile. We're talking gaps, openings 8% to 20% away from the previous close right after the report hits.
Wow, 8 to 20% moves.
Huge moves. But here's the fascinating part. Those big initial moves often reverse themselves during the next trading day. Like in Q1, it opened down sharply, but then climbed back quite a bit by the close.
Huh. So a kind of mean reversion tendency.
Exactly. This historical tendency for post-earnings mean reversion is, well, it's pretty notable. The market seems to overreact initially, then rethinks it.
That is fascinating. So for you listening, maybe don't chase the initial gap. Easier said than done in crypto, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. It's definitely something to watch.
Beyond the headline numbers and the stock reaction, what about the underlying business metrics? What trends have been shaping their performance?
Well, the biggest one, no surprise, is Bitcoin mining. Revenue and the actual amount of Bitcoin mined dropped sharply after the April 2024 halving. Just look at Q1 2025. They mined only 83.3 Bitcoin. That was down 80% year over year.
80%. Wow. That really drives home the impact.
It really does. It shows the scale of the challenge to their traditional business. But the positive story, or the potential positive story, is the cloud services and colocation revenue. That slice of the pie has been getting bigger. It's becoming a larger proportion of their total revenue.
So the diversification is happening in terms of percentage mix, at least.
It is. And it's crucial because it helps buffer that mining volatility.
Yeah.
Potentially more stable income. But these services are still less than 70% of total revenue.
Yep.
So the pivot isn't complete, not by a long shot.
Right, still heavily reliant on mining overall.
Still reliant. But on the plus side, their cash position, their liquidity looks strong. It was $141 million back at the end of March 2025. That gives them breathing room.
Okay, $141 million is a decent cushion, so they're pushing hard on diversifying away from just mining, which seems essential. Was there any other major company news this past quarter? Like M&A or big tech issues, anything like that?
Not really, no. The main news flow during the quarter has really just been about the ongoing expansion of those cloud and co-location services. That's clearly their focus. No major acquisitions announced, no big transformative deals, and thankfully, no significant regulatory problems, security breaches, or tech failures reported during the period either.
So kind of steady as she goes, focusing on executing that pivot.
Seems that way. It's all about building out those alternative revenue streams.
Okay. And stepping back from Bit Digital specifically, what about the wider sector? The macro trends, we know the halving was huge, but what else is impacting miners right now?
Absolutely. The halving hit everyone, not just BitDigital. Reduced mining rewards across the board. And, Bitcoin and related stocks have just been generally volatile. They swing with BTC-USD price moves and react to regulatory news from, well, everywhere.
Yeah, the usual crypto roller coaster.
Pretty much. Though it's interesting, capital flows into this sector have actually stayed pretty robust. So investor interest is still there, broadly speaking. But there are other pressures too. Higher electricity costs are a big one.
Always a factor for miners.
Always. And just intense competition globally, the hash rate keeps climbing. All of that squeezes margins for miners everywhere.
Makes sense. It's a tough environment out there. So considering all the halving, energy costs, their diversification push, what are analysts saying lately? Any big rating changes or shifts in sentiment?
Generally, analysts seem to expect Q2 to just show more of that transition, continued shift away from mining towards cloud and color revenues. We haven't seen any major upgrades or downgrades recently. Price targets have mostly been held steady or maybe trimmed just a bit, likely reflecting those sector headwinds we just talked about.
So analysts are kind of in a wait-and-see mode too, waiting for proof that the pivot is working.
Yeah, I think that's fair. They want to see the results of this diversification strategy really start to move the needle on the top and bottom lines.
Okay, we've covered the fundamentals, the sector backdrop. Let's shift to the technicals. How has Bit Digital stock actually been trading heading into this report? What's the chart look like?
Well, after the Q1 earnings, the stock did trade down pretty sharply.
Right, you mentioned that earlier, Miss.
Exactly. But since then, it's kind of stabilized. It's been consolidating mostly in the $3.30 to $3.60 range. Notably, there hasn't been a big run-up in the price before earnings this time.
What might that suggest?
It could mean expectations are a bit muted, maybe some nervousness about the sector trends we discussed, or perhaps the market feels it's already priced in the known challenges.
Okay. And for listeners watching the charts, any key price levels to keep an eye on? Support below or resistance above?
Definitely. For support, the key levels look like $3.15 and then $3 flat. These are multi-month lows, pretty established technical support zones. A break below $3 would likely be seen as quite negative.
Got it. And on the upside?
Resistance levels to watch are around $3.80. That was a recent swing high. And then the $4 mark.
The round number.
Yeah, $4 is a psychological level and a technical one too.
Yep.
Getting convincingly above that could signal a shift in sentiment.
Okay, clear levels to watch. Now, you mentioned volatility earlier. How much of a swing are the options traders actually betting on for this report? What's the implied move?
Right, the options market is definitely expecting fireworks. They're pricing in an implied volatility that suggests a move of about plus or minus 19% to 22%.
19 to 22%. Either way.
Yeah, that's based on the pricing of what are called at-the-money straddles for the week right after earnings. It's basically a bet on a big move. Doesn't matter which direction.
So traders are absolutely braced for a significant price jump or drop. No quiet report expected here.
Not at all. They're anticipating a pretty wild ride.
Okay, knowing all this, the fundamentals, the trends, the technicals, the expected volatility, let's game out scenarios. What would a bullish outcome look like for Bit Digital this quarter? What would get investors excited?
Well, a strong beat and raise is always the dream. For Bit Digital, that would likely mean a surprise upside in that cloud or colocation revenue growth, faster than expected. Or maybe they show better than expected mining margins despite the halving pressure. Maybe they manage costs really well.
Okay.
And positive forward commentary is key too.
Yeah.
Hints about new revenue streams accelerating. Honestly, seeing positive EBITDA or somehow getting back to overall profitability, That'd be huge. But that feels like a pretty high bar right now, given everything.
Yeah, profitability seems tough. Okay, so that's the bull case. What about the flip side? What does a bearish report look like? What signals trouble?
The bearish case would obviously involve mining economics getting even worse than feared, but I think crucially, it would also mean seeing no acceleration in those alternative revenues.
Mm.
If cloud and colo growth stalls or slows down,
Yeah,
that's bad news for the pivot
myth.
story.
That undermines the whole strategy.
Yeah, exactly. Add in maybe more margin compression, maybe operating cost balloon unexpectedly, or just really weak forward guidance. Any of those would be significant negatives. It would suggest that transition isn't working or isn't working fast enough.
It really does feel like it hinges on that transition. So if you had to pick just one metric, the single most important thing for our listeners to watch when this report drops, what would it be?
Yeah, if I have to pick one, connecting it back to that strategic pivot.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be the breakdown in the trajectory of non-mining revenue. That means cloud and colocation. How much did it grow? What does the trend look like? Is it accelerating? That's what will really tell us about the company's future resilience against these mining headwinds. It's all about how effectively and how quickly they're changing their business.
The non-mining revenue trajectory. Got it. That seems absolutely key. So pulling it all together, what's the takeaway for someone watching Bit Digital right now?
It sounds incredibly complex, this balancing act between the old mining business pressures and these new, hopefully growing service areas. Yeah, it's definitely complex. I'd say the overall lean from looking at all this is probably neutral to maybe cautiously bearish heading into the report. The risk-reward profile doesn't scream bullish opportunity right now. You've got the sector headwinds, the pressure on mining is real, and that transition to cloud and colo, while happening, is still very much in progress.
Not fully proven out yet.
Exactly. However, it's really important not to forget their strong liquidity position. That cash gives them time. And the growth they are showing in cloud services, that does reduce the sort of existential risk. They have options.
Right. It really does boil down to that revenue mix shift, doesn't it? The analysis we looked at gave it only a 4 out of 10 confidence score for a positive earnings surprise.
Yeah, low to moderate confidence.
Which makes sense, because while the diversification effort is promising, like you said, it just hasn't demonstrably offset those big mining declines yet. Not enough to drive overall growth consistently.
It's definitely a race against time for them to scale those new services. And maybe that leaves us with a final thought, or rather a question for you, the listener, especially if you're thinking long-term in the crypto space. Looking beyond just this single report, how fast and how effectively do you really think Bit Digital can scale up these non-mining revenues? Can they make cloud and cloud the main engine of the business? Will these new services truly replace the old mining revenue eventually, or will they just sort of cushion the fall? That's the fundamental challenge they face for sustainable growth in the quarters ahead, and that's the question that will likely drive the stock's value over time.